America's big. It's a land of opportunity, that's for sure, but you can get lost as well. You got to be really targeted. I think that's our learnings.
Today's guest on the ATFW podcast is someone who has lived multiple lives at the highest level. George Gregan is a World Cup winning rugby legend, widely regarded as one of the greatest halfbacks the sport has ever seen. But what happens after the final whistle? For George, it meant building something entirely new. He went from the rugby pitch to the coffee industry and from there into the physical product space with PTP Fit and Bahe, fitness accessories and equipment brands focused on training and performance. Two distinct businesses, two different consumer propositions, and now with his team, he's taking them to the United States. What makes things interesting is George isn't coming to us with a finished success story. He's in it, actively navigating US market expansion, figuring out what translates from Australia and what doesn't, and being completely candid about the fact that winning in one market is not a copy-paste formula for the next one. For operators and executives, whether you're scaling across regions, launching a new product line, or entering an unfamiliar market, the lessons in this conversation are ones you'll want to hear. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Krissy Vann, and this is ATFW. I want to talk a little bit about the who is George Gregan, which is a question many people in the world don't have to ask because of your background. But for those that may not be familiar, give people the little bio intro of your exciting life you've lived, which I must say for the listeners, you're going to hear professional athlete, you're going to hear rugby, and I guarantee there's one thing in his career path that you never would have guessed. But if you're a coffee lover like me, you're going to like it.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you do your bio. And again, a bit of humility. I don't like talking about myself too much, but this career in rugby, or this journey in rugby, started when I was 10 years of age. Before that, I lived in Canberra, which is the capital of Australia, between Sydney and Melbourne. It's like a big country town, but it's an important place, and it's a great place if you love sport. Everything's about 10-15 minutes away. So if you're a young child like I was, and parents, getting to sporting activities is easy. So that was my upbringing. That was the environment I was in. But at the same time, I was playing both summer and winter codes. So I was playing cricket in the summer and I was playing rugby union and rugby league until I was 10 years of age in the winter. But when I got to probably about 12 years of age, became pretty good at rugby union. I started making rep teams, but I was doing the same in cricket in summer. And then you sort of get to a point where you have to make a decision. And I was not as good as Atani. He's that incredible baseballer for the Dodgers. But I liked the idea of maybe playing cricket for my country. But I ended up doing a pivot because I made no runs. I was a batsman. And then I played rugby union whilst I was playing cricket as well. And I got offered what's called an Australian Institute of Sport rugby scholarship. That was big. The best of the best coaches, the best of the best athletes really focused on how they could prepare. And everyone's talking about marginal gains and those 1%ers. We were doing that in the late 80s through the AIS. We were attracting some of the best athletes. And I got into this scholarship through rugby, and I was going, wow, this is getting serious. I'm rubbing shoulders with the best athletes, not just in Australia, but in the world. It was fantastic, and it got serious. I was probably 19 years of age and dropped cricket and just got into rugby. So that took me into getting selected into the Australian Sevens team in 1994. And then that year I made the Wallabies. And similar in a World Cup, played in 4 World Cups over that time from 94 to 2007. My last one was 2007. Was a world champion in 1999, which is amazing. We beat France in Cardiff. So that was probably the peak. That's a long-winded way of saying I had a long rugby career. I played 139 test matches for my country, played over 136 matches for my Super Rugby team over the course of that 13 or 14 years. As I said, we won a few things. We came second a few times. We didn't quite get to the playoffs a few times, but that's life and that's sport. But we turned up and we went again. And then during that period, my ex-wife and I, we set up coffee shops from 1998, which is interesting because it was whilst I was still playing early, but loved the idea of getting into coffee. I think everyone loves coffee. It's probably it's the global drink. Australia were very early adopters. I think that's probably because of the Italian and the European influence of coffee. Of just some really high quality. So in 1998, we started with a small little coffee shop. We had a really good location, lots of foot traffic opposite Citibank, and we were turning over a lot of coffee. So it was a good little business. So it was a really good learning on how you can look after your customer. What do they need? What's the feedback? But we worked on a theory, unlike Starbucks, which hasn't been that successful in Australia. We didn't want comfortable lounges. It was very Italian. Have your coffee and go. So we had stainless steel tables. We had wooden stools. So you could sit down, but you're not going to sit there for 3 hours on a wooden stool. Like you're gonna
No
get
one's bringing
moving.
their laptop to do a work from home
No
day on
one's
that.
bringing their laptop. Well, that was sort of pre the laptop. It's funny, isn't it? 1998. It seems like
I
something out of
know.
Blade Runner. Like it honestly feels like that was Blade Runner. But
I can
anyway,
hear the dial-up sounds in the air.
but it was really cool experience. So we expanded over a period of time, and then the pandemic, and we had up to 15 to 20 stores. It gets super competitive. So there's a lot of learnings from the coffee business, sporting business, which is sort of transferred between a talking to, yeah, the back end of my career. I was playing in Japan, finished my career in Tokyo, which was amazing with a company. They did a company-based team, Suntory, and I was approached by a friend who was a former sort of opponent in club rugby. And that was Matt Dixon. He said, mate, I've got an opportunity for you to maybe try some of our gear. We've got this just one product, and it was like a gym in a bag. It was called the Total Resistance Gym. Sounds good. I said, we've been using this through like the last decade in our high performance environment, be it the Wallabies, be it the Brumbies. We'd call it buzzword now. People start understanding the language of high performing teams. So we call that prehab. And now I think prehab's almost gone as a buzzword. It's all the same. It's like longevity, like we'll get into longevity. It's all the same, just a different sort of bit of wording. We now call it activation. So it's like just turning your body on before you get going. And that helps you move more efficiently. It also prevents any chance of injuries and minimizes it. Doesn't stop. Like we played a collision sport, so some injuries you just can't. It's like in NFL.
There.
But no, that's been the journey. It's a long-winded way, but we started with that one product, and I said, let's do it. I went to Japan. We trialed it out. We had a squad of about 50 people, two teams. We smashed it every single day before we went on the field, and there wasn't one broken tube. The quality of it was amazing. And so I said, this has been fantastic. We put it through its paces by 50 high performing athletes on a daily basis in Tokyo. I said, I'd love to get behind it and provide some education. Anti-fragile is another great word as well. So if something's a little bit off, your body's going to support you. That's really important. Nothing changes. It could be in the US, it could be in Europe, it could be in sunny Melbourne, which isn't normally the case, or
Not this
Sydney, wherever
time
you are in the world. Everyone lunges, everyone squats, everyone pushes and pulls. There's rotation, there's anti-rotation. Everyone needs mobility. What I think we're really proud of is the fact that we're associated with high performance. We can hang our hat on. And just the other day we had, which is a really cool thing, we had Steph Curry's skills coach, Brandon, reach out to us to have one of our athletic high performance sort of, we call them Thunder Bands, to help with their training. So we wear that as a badge of honor. And that's been the journey.
Before we get into that passion that you have, I'm curious. You say, 12 years old, you're playing these two sports, and then all of a sudden think, whew, I'm really good in this one lane. I'm going to dive into this. And that translates into this professional career. What would 12-year-old you say about the journey that you just described to me?
If I was speaking to my 12-year-old self, I'd say just keep that growth mindset, keep learning, and don't be too hard on your results outcome. I think everyone can do that, particularly when you're younger. Oh, I'm not good enough, or you have a few bad days. Yeah, or you might, like in sport, like it happens. Just it's all right. Go back to your basics, work on your fundamentals, and you get another chance. And before you know it, you turn the corner. It does turn. I think that's really important. So yeah, and it was always positive, but like just that whole keep your chin up and keep moving forward and just work on the basics. It rewards you. And it'll hold you in good stead.
Without question. Well, and I think all those messy middles when we're in those growth spurts, if you can stick it out and keep showing up in those, the results on the other side are pretty incredible. And a good example of that is one that so many in our audience can relate to when you speak to the COVID pains of having a brick and mortar business and that completely looking different on the other side by no fault of your own, but a very circumstantial issue you kind of prepared for. And then you pivot when this opportunity comes to you. So you kind of talked about the fact you get sent this thing and you're like, oh, I kind of like this. But I imagine in your position, there's a lot of opportunities that come your way. So why was this one the really one that you decided to double down and say, I can dig my heels into this and make something out of this?
It's a great question because I think a bit of the coffee experience, the brand at that stage was called Power Tube Pro. So it's just tubing. And we've shortened to PTP and we've gone Power to Perform, and we went into smarter movement, better performance. So we really got our brand around that because it was the education. Gosh, I've been coached by some of the best trainers in the world, best athletes, been around, seen it. Let's pass that on to our consumer, our customer. Let's show that we care. This is what I've lived and breathed. I've been doing this professionally since I was 19. So that's 1992. I was at the AIS, and it's held me in good stead. I had a really good long career. I played a lot of test matches. I played a lot of provincial games. I traveled the world. I didn't get too many injuries. And if I did, I rehabbed and recovered very quickly based on the fact that, yes, I got incredible care. I got incredible support medically, physically, but then you got to do the work, and you've got to do the work and understand your body. So that was part of it. And I said, well, this is what I've lived and breathed, and I'd love to pass that on to our end consumer. And that's been our journey, I think. And we've really added to our suite of products and offerings based on that. That was kind of, if I could look ahead, I could see where this goes, and I'd love to be part of that. And here we are.
There's been an expansion in the business lane as well, and that's one of the things that's fascinating. There's more than one element under the umbrella. So talk to me a little bit about the when and the why you decide to lean into that space, the
Yeah, it's
Pilates,
like
yoga.
what was happening during PTP in the early days. We realized Pilates and yoga has been around for a long time, especially yoga. And we thought, well, let's support that form of movement. And that was something that we were early adopters of. I'm coming back to, again, my playing career. We were very early adopters in 1997. The provincial team and a number of the international players with the Wallabies, we'd use Pilates. We'd do mat Pilates. We'd do it on core balls. We'd replicate what you could do on a reformer. And that was really important when you travel, because you can't always get into a studio, but you can get to a gym and there's a core ball and there's some things which you can replicate those movements. So we were very early adopters, and you felt good afterwards. It gets you. Like, as I always say with Pilates, when people say, oh, what about Pilates? I say, have you ever seen a bad dancer? Do they look uncoordinated? Do they look weak? Are they not the strongest? And does the front of their body and back of the body look imbalanced? They're incredible athletes. I said, so yeah, Pilates know what they're doing, and dancers know what they're doing. And I said, so there's a part of movement and rugby, like you're not dancing, but you're moving around in a different sort of way. So it's complementary. So love that. And yoga's, again, but it makes a lot of sense. It's getting your body moving how it's meant to be. In our game, it's a collision sport. You still need to lift the heavy weights. You still need to lift 10. Like, you can't get around that. But this was complementary. But we thought, with PTP, let's try and dip our toe in the water, so to speak, with Pilates and with yoga. And we called it PTP Yoga and Pilates. We try to create a little subsection, but people relating PTP, Power Tube Pro, to our tubing. And the mats were landing, but the rest of the stuff, like, you're up against somewhere like, just say it's Manduka or it's Lululemon, or now it's ALO, there's others, like there's a whole range, and you're thinking, you know what, it's just not sitting. Like, let's have a carve out. We landed on Bahe, so BAHE, so it's Bahe, and it translates to Hindi for flow. And then we also like the idea of Pilates, because we'd added Pilates into the PTP, so we added a few things around Pilates, like Pilates rings, some of the core essentials, and all of a sudden it resonated. And we've grown that range out. So along the way, we've developed what we think is going to support our customer's journey. And the customer who buys PTP compared to the customer who's going to engage in Bahe and Pilates is different. It's more female skewed. It's changing. Guys are starting to realize the benefits of yoga, and it's going to change. Like, it's this whole, I'm not sure what it is. I wouldn't say it's a macho thing. It's just, yeah, it's one of those forms of movement which, once you've done it, you go, hang on, why have I not been doing this? And yes, I
Well,
can
and
still.
society-wise, there's so many things that have been stigmatized for no good reason, as associated as this is for this type of demographic, this is for this type of
Yeah,
demographic. And it just takes a couple adopters to get out there and say, hey, I'm doing this. Exactly how you're talking about the ripple effect of having professional athletes using your
yeah.
equipment, where you're like, this is, it could be for you as well, and add range to your life and movement and mobility. It's no different, but it just takes a little bit of time for some people to step out and be like, hey, endorse it,
It's
and then everyone wants to kind of come along for the ride.
Yeah, it's really true. It's like, if you go to a traditional gym, and you'll see people doing like traditional Olympic lifts, could be a deadlift, could be a squat. And you just think, oh well, unless it's an athlete, you can't do that. You go in, like, I'm in the UK, when I'm there, I'll go to one of our ones, third space, and the women are doing like all the cages have done it, and it's like 2/3 of women, they're doing deadlifts, they're doing cleans, they're getting strong. It's good. And this stigma of like, no, it's good. And everyone can see the benefit of that. So no, we're sort of breaking down that stigma, I think, with men with Pilates and yoga.
Yeah, we're seeing the signals happen in regards to metrics and boutique fitness of who's attending yoga and Pilates classes. So it's definitely skewing. I don't think it'll be that long till we see that exact mirror effect that we're seeing in the Olympic lifting stations, where all of a sudden it's this 50-50 split on the gym floor.
Got some data points on that. Probably 65% of our demographic who are purchasing our PTP equipment, it's male, saying 65-35, nearly 60-40, but more often than not, it's the female consumer who's purchasing on behalf sometimes, but it flips with Bahe. But I think you're right. I think again, both of them will start merging. Like I like doing Pilates classes. I'll get on a reformer when I'm here in Australia, and I'll do it in the UK. And if, to be fair, I think there might be 2 or 3 guys per class and the rest is women, but that'll change. Like, and I think, and maybe the women won't be happy if that changes because we're going to need more classes, but the clubs will like it. And those businesses will like it. The studios will like it, but that creates more demand. But I think it's moving that way because, yeah, I think everything we're talking about and we're designed to move. Like I just love, there's a great book called Brain Rules and I love reading it. I'm not making this a book club, but it just
I love a book
shows
club,
how
so please.
it shows how intelligent we were. Like we actually were on 4 legs. Well, we went to bipedalism for survival, so we could look above the savanna grass, so we didn't get eaten by lions and where the danger was. So we're quite smart. Like the more we look at our devices, the more we start doing this, the more we start looking like we're going to go down to 4 legs again. We're never going to do that. That's probably an exaggeration, but it is heads up. Like and that form of training puts us where we're meant to be. And I think just from a survival and just from the way we were designed and the way we've evolved, these forms of movement, be it traditional functional fitness training and yoga Pilates, set you up to be strong and live a really positive life. And I think that can't be underestimated.
I think it's really cool that we're seeing this focus on longevity. And from a business perspective, you decided to go all in. And now you're at a really exciting precipice in your business story. And that's the fact that you're looking at expansion into the US market. So, talk to me a little bit about the why behind that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of success. We've also had a lot of learnings, and with learnings comes failures, if you know what I mean. But that it depends how you interpret it. But it is like you don't always get it right. I think that's like with sport. I mentioned earlier. You don't win. You can get to finals. You don't always win. Like, but what do you learn? So we started in Australia. Was a gym in a bag. Went across the ditch, which we call across the ditch, to New Zealand. They supported us really well, and they continue to be one of our really strong customers. The APAC region. UK, bits of Europe, Ireland. Elver is into sport. They're a wonderful supporter of ours. So our good friends in Ireland. And we've also been in Canada. So we were with Sport Check, the Fazani Group, FGL in Canada, where I know about the Chinook, where it can change 24 degrees in a
So
day.
proud.
It goes from -40 to -16 and it's still cold. Like it's not crazy cold, but it's an amazing place. And a bit like rugby, you've seen the world and there's been a common language which people can relate to, and that is fitness and well-being. And that's definitely been our case. We're in about 30 countries now. And US, we were approached probably in 2016 by it was United Sports brand in Newport, and they were talking to us about, what are you looking at doing? They were potentially looking at taking a stake in our business. And we were just starting our journey then, but we'd obviously shown some quality, which they'd gone, well, let's have a look at these guys. And we've since then gone, well, we should be in America. Like, and America's big, like Europe's big. Like, we're not in all of Europe, but we're in parts of Europe. And a lot of that's through distribution, a bit of B2B. But I think it's big. It's a land of opportunity, that's for sure. But you can get lost as well. You got to be really targeted. I think that's our learnings. Like when we went to Germany, we had a direct B2B relationship with Intersport headquarters. Then we wanted a distributor. We've gone through 2 distributors there, and that hasn't been great. So if someone's going to represent your brand, I'll talk about the learnings. You need someone who's going to be all in and believe in what you're doing and be a reflection of you. And so that's always a challenge when you go into a new territory. And like going into America, it's like being really targeted about where is it? Because the west coast of America is bigger than Australia. Like you've got Texas, you've got East Coast, you've got Florida. Like where do you go? And everyone's doing, as I said, those 8 foundational functional movement patterns. But where do we go? So we've knocked on that door, having had some success, as we said, in Canada, and then we're working on looking at entering into the US market in this next probably 12 to 18 month period. But we've been knocking on that door. We've sort of got a nice little trial going on with CVS, who we were introduced to by our good friend who's part of our company as well, Matthew Dellavedova, who played the Cavs, who played with LeBron James when they won. They came back from 3-1 and beat the Golden State Warriors that year. He's a wonderful guy, and he's on board, and he introduced us through his angel investing into the CVS crew. So we were in a trial mode with both PTP and Bahe, probably in their wellness space. I think they call it their wellness valley, and getting people moving and doing some of the basic things we're talking about on this podcast. And that's going well. But if that succeeds, and that can really that's when you get the big multiplier, because America's so big, and they said, we're going to take you from, say, 500 stores to thousands of stores. And then, okay, that's a great moment. But then with your business comes a big challenge. Okay, to get the stock, we're multiplying that by X amount. Can we supply it? How's our production looking like? And a lot of our stuff's manufactured throughout Asia. There's a geopolitical piece, but it works really, really well. There's things like tariffs. There's all those levers. But we want to support people who are into their fitness, their well-being, and that journey is something that we want to be part of in America. And I think it's an exciting time, but it's also telling the story. How do we resonate with the people in America? You got to be authentic and real, but it's telling that story in the States and then targeting who we want to go to.
Hearing that whole journey and like the fact that you're in this really exciting part of the journey from the entrepreneurial side, what do you think has driven your entrepreneurial spirit so much? Because obviously you've had many iterations of what many people would refer to as a successful career, and yet have this drive to continue. So where's that spark from?
It's a great thing. I think it's probably sport. I think not everyone who plays sport is going to be an entrepreneur. Like, it's different. I've got players, my former teammates, who they're CEOs of businesses. They're working in finance, or they're working in your traditional white collar businesses, or they've got their own businesses. They've gone out and set up their own trade. They're building homes. It's quite a range. But that idea of doing something together and achieving something, which might start as an idea and growing it, I think that's definitely been influenced in a positive way by sport. And then like a season finishes or a cycle finishes. And as we said, we joked before, didn't we? You pause and you say, we go again. That was that Olympics. Okay, world champs is in 2 years. Let's look at doing that. And then you reset, and then you go again. And I think that's been part of the entrepreneurial drive, having had that mindset in sport, because it's a very important mindset to have in high performing, successful sports. And I think, yeah, that's probably been me. I love the idea of learning all the time and trying different things. Like, as I said, I started playing a summer sport, then you play a winter sport, different conditions, different skill sets. It's a challenge, but I'm going to have a go at it and see how I go, and I enjoy it. And I think that's been a big part of it. And both, you talk about coffee, it's all about people. It's serving people and helping people in a really positive way. And then if you can get a business around that, that's even better. It doesn't feel like work. Here I'm talking about it, it actually doesn't feel like work. And for me, if work's like actually trialing one of our new products or being part of the new product development and saying, what do we think of these things? What do you think of this as a modality? What do we think of this as a product? And I say, okay, let's get a sample. I'll trial it out. I'll use it. That's work. Come on. Like, I'm very, very lucky. But that whole process is good. And as I said, through sport, you learn you don't always win. Like, your intention is to win. You prepare to win, but you've got to accept what performance you put out there. And if it's a loss, then okay, what can we learn? And if it's a win, what did we do well that we need to keep doing? Like, there's always those things. It's perpetual learning, because as soon as you get a bit lazy and you think, oh, we've reached the top, people go partially because they're learning from you. That's the nature of it. People are learning from you. So I think that's been probably a big part of my entrepreneurial sort of drive. I like to try things. I like doing stuff and achieving stuff together and building a good team of people. And I think this journey we're on now is probably going to be the next layer of like people that we're going to need to take us to that next, okay, how do we get there? You know what you know, but there's things that you don't know. And I think put your hand up, be really honest and be authentic and say, we need some help here. And that happens in sporting teams as well. Like I use the analogy for my game, educating Americans. World Cup's coming in 2031, so this is just a little tip. But if the ball gets kicked out in rugby union, they throw the ball into the line out, and that's normally the taller guys, and the shorter guys, you lift them in the line out. It's quite bizarre, but they're jumping in the air for the ball. Kind of looks like basketball, but it doesn't. It's crazy. And then they'll win the ball, and my job as halfback was to get that ball and then pass it to my first receiver or my second receiver, whatever. So my job, I'm touching the ball probably the most in the game as scrum half, but my job is to catch the ball and move the ball, be available to be where the ball is and then move it. So it's hands-on, it's where it is, there's communication, but my job's not to be lifted in a line out at the top of the line out and get the ball. That's not my job. My job's not to, in a scrum, when they put their heads together and smash each other. That's not my job. My job's just to put the ball in, thank goodness. And so understanding your clarity of your role. But if we're weak in some of those areas, you say, well, we've got to coach better, or to get better players. Or it's a combination of both those things. And then there's the responsibility of everyone to do that. And I think that mentality is really important in business, and that comes through sport. And then you will be able to measure yourself in a really consistent basis, and then you're always improving, ideally. Doesn't mean, as I said, you're always winning, but you're always improving. I think that's a really good attitude to have.
Such sound advice, especially because as human beings, our egos sometimes can be the thing that gets in the way of adopting that mindset. And what you just said is the biggest winning attitude of all. But I think a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, if they're maybe in a scrappier situation at first, there's a certain semblance of you that you have to do a lot of it on your own, but it's knowing when you're ready to expand, and exactly that. Hire out skill sets where you're like, this might not be my number one. Well, then I'm going to bring that person in and also learn from them at the same time, being humble enough to learn from other people.
What you just said then, I think that's a really good takeaway. I think the best leaders, I don't care if it's in business, it's in sport, they inspire the next leaders through their actions, and they support it by mentoring. They make the other people around them better. So my journey as a rugby player, it's funny, you started a young guy, you're playing with people you've been watching, so you're a bit overawed when you go into a change room, because the people you've been watching on TV and have inspired you, now you're playing with them. It's kind of a bit like a pinch me moment, but then you've got to get over that and say, no, I'm in this team because I'm good enough and I should be in this change room. So I'm going to do what I do. And then, so once you get over that, then you go, okay, I belong. It's like you're part of the tribe. That's good. Then over time, you go being the young member of the tribe, and not everyone, but if you're there long enough, you're starting to become in that sort of chief mode, if you know what I mean. Like you become the elder. You've got the licks, you've got the scars, and you've got the experience you need to pass on, and you need to put your arm around some people. Sometimes you need to be firm, but all of those things, that's great leadership, but you pass it on and you make the people around you better. And I said, that's really, really important if you're going to be, if you're in a leadership role. It's always good to pause and reflect on those things. Am I passing it on? Am I helping the people around me get better? And am I making them better, or am I creating an environment which allows that? And that's critical. I think that's critical for really successful teams.
George, I'm so appreciative because everyone knows time zones here. My evening, your morning, you've started the day with me today. But for people that have heard some things today that have resonated, they're interested to learn more, where can I send them to?
Got our website. It's ptpfit.com. We've also got baheflow.com. And yeah, we're just about to go into America, so we'll be updating all that information. I do have a LinkedIn profile, which people will be able to see and communicate, which is not a problem at all.
Well, I'm so appreciative. We started this entire conversation talking about the power of connection. And through a simple conversation and accepting a lunch invite, all of a sudden you and I got introduced from across the world. And that's one of the beautiful things. I think this industry as a whole, fitness, movement, sport, is all about connecting individuals. And we know from a consumer level, one of the biggest issues we have in society today is a loneliness epidemic. And we are seeing our fitness spaces flourish as third spaces where more and more people are connecting. So thank you, George, for sharing your story of business and leadership with us today. I wish you all the luck with the US expansion. And also, thank you for being a believer in getting more people moving.
We were designed to move. We're meant to move. So you choose your movement pattern, have a variety of it. I think it's really important. Mix it up, challenge yourself, but keep moving. Keep moving.
Stay fit. Stay informed. Keep your fitness business in shape. This is the ATFW podcast by Krissy Vann. Find us on LinkedIn, like, share, and follow.